Welcome to Astroneer, a game all about intense resource collection, exploration of your planet and many others that wait to be traversed, and a huge lack of organization. And today you will see how I 100%ed it. We're done, we finished! We'd make our first touchdown on a planet in a rocket pod, as the only things we had to our name was a shelter and a missions log. And with having no idea what I was meant to be doing, I decided that doing whatever missions we could would be the best idea, as our first arrival gave us a small printer, which I was extremely confused on how I'm even meant to use. But we did also get an oxygenator, which now allowed us to pull oxygen from our shelter, being indicated by this blue tether attached to my body. But back to the printer, we also tried to attach it to the shelter when we noticed that there was a cable we could use to power it. Powering it completed another mission as we unlocked tethers that would increase our oxygen distance, which is crucial as our oxygen is shown by the blue bar on top of our backpack, and it does not last for long once you are away from an oxygen source. So tethers were required to get any sort of exploration done. We could reach some new resources with organic and clay, which we tried to put into the printer, before realizing we needed something completely different called resin, but for some reason still try to put the organic in it. We did find this ball called resin that we couldn't harvest because it was actually lying to us on what it was. But it did drop these resource samples that we were able to scan for our first achievement. We were able to find a new resource in some gray blobs called compound for the first time, until finding these little yellow coral looking rocks that turned out to be resin. And going back to the printer, we can now actually use it to create our first building item with the medium platform. Another thing I had no idea how to use. It said base building item on it, so I assumed it was used to make other base buildings, kind of like a crafting table. Yet I eventually just gave up with it and used it as a storage item instead. Wait, what do you require now? Copper? Smelting in a furnace? How the fuck do I get a furnace? Oh god. So trying to make another item only opened up new questions, and if you couldn't tell from how lost I sound, the progress you have seen so far has taken us up to an hour to get to for a small printer and a medium platform that we didn't even know how to use. But opening our map, we saw this purple marker as we decided to make our way to it, where we found what seems to be the remnants of a base and also an exodynamics research aid, a capsule that we of course had no idea how to open. But heading underground, we were able to find our first hazardous plant and harvest it up for another achievement when we took our first death. I got a second achievement. I'll have to mark that off once we get back. Ooh, go back quickly. That's so unfortunate. Oh. When you die in this game, you do drop every single item on your body, but your death is marked, and as long as you don't die again, you should be able to reach your backpack without a problem. We then picked up compound after a very long time because I completely forgot what it looked like for another mission, which would give us a medium storage unit which we could now make for ourselves to organize some of our items. Although leaving your items on the ground doesn't necessarily mean they'll despawn. We then discovered a new tab on our backpack that's pretty much a blueprint shop. We could buy a bunch of different items with bytes, which we get from our resource scans. But again, we didn't know what this was at all and just mindlessly scrolled on it trying to figure it out. But we did finally learn something, as we accidentally found out we can actually change the item selection on the printer, as we can now make a medium printer and put it onto a platform to complete all of our training missions. The medium printer allowed us to create larger items like the large platform, for example. But we were now asked to create and use the research chamber for another mission. Printing it wasn't much of a problem, as it's just some resin and compound which can both be found anywhere. But using it is where a problem started, as looking around this thing we found no cables to start powering it. Yet putting organic in there, it did start doing something, so I just thought that maybe this doesn't require power. I think I'll be fine. I'm definitely close enough to grab my thing back. Grab the oxygen back. Right. Please. Connect! Oh my god. We did at least find out how to make our own tethers now with compound, as we also made a large printer for future structures. We also made a purchase for the smelter schematic, and while making it, we found out that producing more power to your machines will actually increase the speed of them, which was super useful in the future. But finishing the furnace, we had the same problem as the research station, with there being no cables anywhere on it. We decided to check the bottom to see if there's anything on it, and we noticed these 4 connection points. As I finally figured out what all these platforms are for, as these platforms have cables, and if there's enough space, you can put your machines onto a platform to power it. And please don't ask how this took me so long to realize. I know I've already done it like 3 other times and didn't make the connection yet. But with that discovery, it was now time to bring ourselves and our tethers deeper underground, where we found new material in spherolite. And I can just fucking wait. Don't tell me I can just hold this back. And I'll hold this, run this back to base. We're very slowly moving. Oh, research an item in the research chamber. Oh, I think the thing. Oh, wow. Okay. This is how we would make most of our bites, as researching items can give you a lot, yet you can only research an item 1 time before you need to find another one. But we could now also smelt down our spherolite into zinc, and then found our Astropedia, which acts as our in-game wiki, to tell us all about the resources and where to find them, which was super useful. But after that, we were back underground, where we found quartz and a new item with the packager. It said it made items easier to transport, so I thought it would open up an inventory space or something. But we would figure it out much later. We then ran into a pretty big drop off, and not wanting to find out just yet if there's fall damage or not, we chose to carve a path into the wall to make it down safely, when we found another new resource with laterite, which we could then smelt down as well into aluminum. A pretty important resource for a lot of different recipes. So ferrolite. I get 1 something. Alright, let's go find spherolite, whatever that is. Managing one of the worst memories in existence, we were able to collect our 1 thing. Give me 1 random ass item. What is this? Oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ. Contains case file blank fates. I thought it said fates of the ass. Holding the item out, we could see what looked to be an outline of a new ship we could unlock. Although there were some requirements before we could use it. We needed to do it away from our shelter, dig under the object, and also clear out everything around the outline, mainly just the dirt and stone in the ground. It was a little weird to do, as clearing everything out was a little stingy, but we were eventually able to use the item. What is that annoying ass sound? It sounds like there's something walking. Oh, I found it. Oh my god, that sound was terrible. But this wasn't a ship. It was instead a xenobiology lab wreckage that for now was unusable. Before that though, we got another achievement by planting down a seed. Now I had a pretty good idea to getting power to the lab. As the shelter itself is an infinite power source, we just had to get one to the lab, which would work as the lab itself did have a plug. We first needed another new resource with malachite, which we could again smelt down into copper now. And for the shelter, we would need 2 other new resources with plastic and silicone, which were composite resources which needed a new station in the chemistry lab that we would buy the schematic for. Now back to that copper, we could use it to create cable extenders. And our whole plan was to get enough cable extenders down to the lab when we could then power our large printer to be able to print another shelter right by the lab. Look at the chemistry lab. Wait, we need tungsten? Oh shoot, we've been picking up aluminum. Oh fuck, wait, where do we get tungsten? Tungsten. It's refined. It comes from wolframite. That's not a real word. But this is found where? Oh, it's not even found on this world. I have to go wait, how the fuck do I interesting. So I you're just wasting my time. Yeah, because we're on Silva. You heard that right. Some resources are planet exclusive, which meant for now we needed to figure out space travel. Which running into a problem and then needing to find the solution was probably my favorite part of this game actually. So we decided to just continue with our extenders all the way to the lab and clean everything up again. We needed to get more copper, which was a little hard as traversing the mountains took some time with the much harder rock and the more sparse malachite as we took another death. You're joking! Oh my god! That is so annoying! It's so close! You're kidding, and I can't put this anywhere else. It keeps falling. We did manage to connect it all together, although it wasn't working. So we instead just slapped a battery into it to give it temporary power and looked through the logbook about different species, I think. I mean, you don't actually expect me to be reading all of this, but looking through it did unlock a few new missions for us. One required us to create some upgrades for our terrain tool with the boost and drill mod, which increased our mining speed overall. Doing that would also unlock the soil centrifuge, a new machine that would take a canister of soil and for it would turn it into a handful of different items. Pretty useful when you're just needing one or two extra pieces of something. We also had another mission to scan some shells, so we went into the forest as we had found some there already when we ran into the ruined base again and realized we could actually take the wind turbine for some free energy. In a little more searching, we could find all the shells we needed, when we also found another pod that had a backpack on it with a few items, and a strange new item, and we're able to also start powering more of our machines as well with the turbine. Small trumpet horn. Schematic. How to have the horn. Oh wow, wait, this is actually pretty big. Nice. So one thing I found out I could do is customize. Alright, here we go. We got our new astronaut. I love how he looks personally. That's a small horn to a terrarium. Oh. Oh shit. We can now emo with this new little creature, and when we danced with him, it would slowly become tamed, and we could put it in our terrarium. And could also bring it back to the lab to scan it to complete another one of our missions. After I wanted to see what this curious item was about, as we could interact with it. And when we did, it would end up cracking the sky itself, yet it did just seem to be a cosmetic thing. A really cool one though, as I do have to mention, this game is shockingly beautiful. Like I loved the environment that this game made you feel. And going back into the forest, I wanted to try and open this exo capsule thing. It's said to insert the appropriate resource, and we tried a few different things but with no success at all. Heading back underground, we were able to get lucky with one and open it up with laterite, which gave us a research sample. And just for an added fun fact, all of the ones you open with a resource all open with laterite for some reason. And because the research sample was so valuable, we could also scan more than 150 bytes per minute. We then found out that a landing pad and a small shuttle are both surprisingly cheap to buy and make. So we went ahead with it to start our space travels. And while doing that, we finished another mission which gave us our first buggy. But we still had one problem with that being fuel. And this wasn't something we could just battery power either like before. We knew we needed a thruster, but now we also needed a new resource. Ammonium, which said could be found anywhere. So we grabbed a rover seat and gave it some power as we made our way out. Driving in this game is actually pretty fun, and the vehicles are quite powerful, as they can manage steepish slopes as well as being a portable source of oxygen. But in real bad terrain, the vehicles are not that enjoyable. But still, even with a lot of searching, we gave in and looked at the wiki, where it said we could actually use the soil centrifuge to create one ammonium. But we got compound, and then more compound, and again, even more compound. Now, while I assume this machine was luck-based and would just randomly make one of the resources, it in fact can quite easily be chosen. So, you think we got enough compound with all the... But with the ammonium, we now had our thruster, as we took our first ever launch off of our quiet planet known as Silva. We took this chance to now collect our titanium that we needed earlier, and made our way to the sandy and arid planet Calidor. We chose to land by this big obelisk that we could see from space, and when approaching it, we found out it was called a gateway, yet there was nothing at all we could do with this for now. Now, wolframite was something that could be found up in the mountains. We spent quite some time looking for it, as we were even getting faked out now. But as the sun fell over the horizon, it would actually help a lot, as wolfram produced a faint glow that we could see now. I made sure to fill up on as much of it as I could carry and happily made my way back towards home. We smelted our new metal into some titanium and could now make the chemistry lab, which we used to make our first piece of plastic. With that, I now wanted to lean into the building side of this game. As you've probably noticed, there are a whole lot of ugly pits in the ground. We could make a leveling block with a pile of dirt, which I assumed would let us make some flat ground. But for some reason, you cannot change it off of this ungodly angle, as it was determined to be completely useless. But I really wanted to be able to at least cover these holes, so it was back to the wiki, where we found out we can actually build as long as we have a canister of soil on our backpack. But it's safe to say that the building in this game is janky at best. Moving on from that heartbreak, we did print our first tractor, and crafting our own packager, we were also given a free shredder, which we could turn all of our useless junk into some scrap for us, which we could use later. We also found some exo capsules that could be opened with power instead of a resource, which was easy enough with our new portable generators. And after that, we went for a few random achievements that required us to be falling. So we used our awkward building tool to create a tall slope upwards, as we needed to stay sliding for 10 seconds. Easy to do, as all you need to do to slide is fall down a steep enough slope and keep your momentum. The first try was a bust, but a little more height and the fact we could continue our slope while on the ground meant we could easily grab this one. Keep going. Oh, wow, we just got that, like barely. But the next one wasn't as easy, as we now needed to free fall for 10 seconds while in a rover. And 10 seconds is a long ass time for something like this. We tried making a big hole to fall into, but it would have needed to be so perfect that we scrapped that idea and just kept building a bridge upwards. But the real hardest part was just getting our rover up this crooked and sloppy ramp for each attempt. We did have a few good falls, but we soon chose to create our path up a mountain, as it was easier to go up on and would also give us a good start to our ramp. We were also slowly figuring out how the flattening tool worked a little, which made making the ramp and driving up it so much easier. And this was showing some good potential. We of course then kept going up even higher, and higher than that. High enough to pass through the clouds. So high that if we wanted to build a longer bridge, we needed to bring up tethers with us, because our oxygen tank wasn't enough to make it to the top anymore. 20. We need to get to 30 seconds. Oh, what? That got to 30. Nah, I just got scammed so hard. What if I get out? Nah, it doesn't do anything. So we again got more soil and more tethers and went even higher. So high we were past the atmosphere. So high we were in space at this point. So high we could easily see the curvature of our planet. There was one plus side, and that was sliding back down was really fun. My things are getting in the way. I didn't know they could do that. Oh, we're at the end. I can see it. Just send it. We're at 58 seconds, so I need to get to 8 seconds. Oh my god. What? How was that not the achievement? We got to like 10 seconds. So that was a 12-second drop. Wait, what? So with that blatant scam, we just went to cheese this achievement instead. We bought an item called the winch, but we needed a new resource called an exochip. I haven't gotten this yet, but I did have an idea. Back on Calidor, we found this random box, but we couldn't open it as it needed an explosive. So we set out to find one on Silva as well and test our theory. I don't know how big this explosive is. Please also only need one. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. I know, I know. I just have the world's largest brain. On our way back, we did find another crate and tried bringing it back home too. But we couldn't hold on to it while in the rover, so it was a real slow process. I did ditch the rover to become a little bit faster, yet I completely forgot about oxygen. But we were eventually able to drag the crate back home and open that one up too. Now with our new winch, we could place it on top of a little pillar in this shape and then attach our tractor to it to make it airborne. And sitting on it for a few seconds, we were able to grab our achievement in a pretty lame way, honestly. But while doing all that, we did find this little ball car thing and also got an achievement for playing in a multiplayer world for 4 hours. And yes, there are multiplayer exclusive achievements. But moving on, we wanted to make it to the mantle layer. Digging straight down wasn't really an option, as falling into an open cave would easily kill us to fall damage. So we just explored and found cave after cave that would allow us to make it deeper and deeper and deeper into the world. And also found some pretty cool looking caves in the process. We soon found this maroon colored rock, and when jumping into it, we eventually passed through the mantle. After that, we wanted a lot more bytes and looked for these capsules, as they normally hold around 500 bytes each. While looking though, we ran into another gateway and noticed we could actually power these things. The more energy we put into it, the more these bars would rise. We didn't have enough power yet, but heading back home, we could utilize the tractor and its trailer for the first time. The trailer can hold on to medium-sized items like a generator, for example. So we made a few and brought them back to the gateway. But we soon realized that the generator itself doesn't have a cable, so we built a little ramp so the tractor could get itself up there, as the trailers do have cables. And when we powered everything up, the pillars in the middle very, and I mean very, slowly started dropping down. But with that, we solved our first gateway chamber, and interacting with the stone in the middle, we could clearly see that there were more that needed to be activated. So we packed up our things and went to solve the second gateway. This one was a little awkward though, as it was pretty much submerged in a mountain. But we started with creating a path to the gateway so we could get our tractor into it to begin with. And once we got where we wanted, we started caving out the inside of it and managed to clear out a pretty big chunk. We eventually had enough space inside for everything and powered up our second gateway. And now when interacting with the stone, we could fast travel to our other gateway and any other ones that we power in the future. Yet, we couldn't travel back to the other one? So we tried to make a run for it back to base, but it was much too far for us to even have a chance to reach. I'm assuming the reason why we couldn't travel back is because there was so much rock above the center stone that we use. And when we traveled, we teleported above the stone, so we spent a lot more time clearing out everything to clear out our teleportation zone. Oh my god. It was open, it's just in the back. It's like hidden. Oh my god. Game, you did me dirty with that. With that, we moved on to making a new resource with gases. And for that, we needed to create the atmospheric condenser. And to be able to make it, we needed another new resource in iron. So we were once again back into space and going to an icy tundra with almost no normal plant life whatsoever. We touched down on Glacio. Oh, we don't have enough. That's rough. I was gonna take my generator as well. And then I was like, nah, I don't need it. I'm not gonna find any of these. Oh my god! That blew up from so far away, Jesus Christ! Oh. Alright, well, now I know what those do. Thankfully, hematite was bountiful on this planet, and we were easily able to collect a lot of it as we went back home and could now make the condenser. And after some time, we can also make a little bit of hydrogen and get an achievement. After that, we decided to go to another planet in Vicenia. And while there, we could pick up another planet exclusive resource in Titanite, which was also the last raw material we haven't collected yet. And we could quickly grab another achievement, as smelting it down for titanium also meant we smelted every possible resource. We then made up some nitrogen and collected some graphite for our first piece of graphene, and also a piece of titanium alloy. We then made a huge new upgrade, literally, in the large shuttle, which was super useful as we could transport some items onto it. So with that, we landed on Novus for the first time, as we were only here to produce another planet exclusive gas and methane before heading back home and making some silicone with it. And after that, we printed out another shelter, which is absolutely massive, by the way, and brought it to another planet, as I was so confident that placing a shelter on another planet was an achievement. But clearly, I just made that up. But while here, we grabbed up a lot of ammonium, as we were going to be traveling a whole lot. And also found a new item called an artifact. Of course, my first thought was to take it home, so I made sure to pack as many of them as I could on my ship. They didn't do too much, but scanning them did give you over 1,000 bytes. And we made a few more science resources with rubber, aluminum alloy, tungsten carbide, and a diamond. And to make the rest, we needed some more gas. So we reluctantly landed on the ugly, annoying, toxic planet known as Atrox. Fuck. Forgot to bring the large platform. That one thing. I don't know why I didn't think about powering this. My god. I have to go back again. Okay. I forgot to make another large platform. Oh my god. Alright, we're going back home. Once we managed to actually remember every item we needed to produce our gas, we were able to collect some sulfur and also some helium as we went back to Vicenia to pick up some argon as well, which was now every gas resource collected. And with it, we could make some more science resources with explosive powder, steel, and the very expensive nanocarbon alloy, which was also every resource produced in the chemistry lab. After that was time for the trade rocket. The scrap we made from before could actually be traded in for many different items as we grabbed another achievement. And dropping back down on Glacio, we hit a little jig before landing on our final planet De Solo, where we performed the hardest chicken dance you have seen and also boogied down on every single planet. Now, all the way back to the gateways, we still had 4 more on the surface that we were needing to power up. So we headed to each of them to turn them on, as the last one was down in the core. Heading down so deep really opened up some crazy looking caves that were super fun to look at. Once we eventually got deep enough, we ran into a new rock layer that we couldn't dig through. But dropping down just a little bit more, we did find out that this is the core of our planet. So with no choice, we very slowly made our way back to the surface and created another upgrade with Drill Mod 3. And this thing was so nice, as not only could we now mine through the new rock, it was also so much faster just in general. And continuing our way down, we soon found a pillar that looked a lot like the gateways from before. And it had its own gravitational pull, which was just as awkward as it looks to deal with. But mining our way further down the pillar, we would soon be introduced to the core of the planet, a gateway engine, a super cool looking structure. Making our way in, we could eventually jump off of the pillar and into the engine itself. There was a panel in the middle of the platform which had a resource icon on it, and again, using the very handy Astropedia, we could thankfully find out that the icon matched with quartz. Okay, so it's not this one. Okay, we got our canister? Why are you on the ceiling? Oh, okay. Oh, that's why it's on the ceiling. So here's the thing with this area. This room and the planet pretty much is now rotating around you, which, well, made it very easy to get disorientated and now lost. We tried going through a few of the pillars to see if any of them led to the tethers that we had, but with no luck, we ended up just choosing one and digging our way through until we made it into the caves again. And finally making our way out, we were just kind of wandering around a little bit again before getting completely lost. And this time, I again forgot about oxygen as we took another death. Getting a quick way back to the surface though, we did take the chance to grab the quartz that we needed. And now we had to be extremely careful, as our body was holding not only our drill, but a few portable generators which we cannot create ourselves. And dying again before reaching our backpack would cause all of the items to scatter. But thankfully we were able to make our way back and also went inside of the engine again. And inserting our quartz into the console, we were able to produce a new item with the geometric trip thing. But taking that item, we could run up to the roof of this dome, and inserting the geometric item, we would be able to solve our first gateway engine on Silva. And also unlock a fast travel point to and from the core now. But here's the thing. Would you at all believe me if I said I now had to do that on every planet as well? And yes, I do mean both the engine and the gateways. But putting a small pin in that dreadful sounding achievement, we were jumping over to Calidor to go and scan 5 of the shells that we needed, and also landed on the Solo to do the same thing there. Doing this would give us a few terrariums that we could fill up. And if you remember our Galastropod from before, there was actually one for every planet that we could collect. And so we again tamed some more of them on Calidor and then also De Solo. Doing this would unlock the same mission, but now for Visenia. We went along to again scan the shells, fill up our tank, and then get to taming the Galastropod known as Princess. Now the reason we were collecting these guys is because we found out they actually have some special abilities behind them whenever you keep them fed. The Silva one would illuminate a large area, Calidor would produce oxygen, De Solo would mark valuable resources, and Princess would give you complete damage and vulnerability as long as it was fed and in your backpack. So you can imagine how useful that was not being able to die anymore. Although we could still die from a lack of oxygen, so to fix that we made a portable oxygenator with our piece of nanocarbon, which has now just given us complete freedom to go anywhere without consequences. We of course also planted Princess's favorite seeds at home too. Now it's time for a bite farm. As I know I haven't really touched on it yet, but we were almost always behind on money when we wanted something. So we were going to change that. To set it up, we could connect our condenser to the same platform with a few research scanners. Making the condenser repeatedly produce nitrogen, it would automatically go into one of the scanners once completely filled. Pretty basic, but we had a big problem in that this takes a whole lot of power. So we connected two medium carbon generators, which worked well enough, but now we had another problem of needing to babysit them as they would run out of carbon really quickly. So it was time to fix that, as well as we landed on Aatrox again and found a harmless flora that we could collect the seeds of called honeypot, which we would plant back at home. We could then make a new item in the auto arm, which will grab and place some resources down that are in range of it, which was really useful, as if we connect a tapper to the honeypot, it would produce some organic every few seconds. In connecting a furnace to the same platform as the generators, we were now done once we turned the arm on, as it would pick up the organic that the honeypot produced, put it into the smelter, and after it smelted down into carbon, it would go into the generators, which now meant we had a 100% automatic energy and bytes farm for the rest of our run. After finishing up all of that though, we printed out a few trailers and packed up the ship once again as we were heading off to the Solo, as it was now time to get all of the gateways powered up and going. The ground of the Solo was real bumpy and pretty steep in some places, but thankfully it's a moon, which means it only has two gateways, so it didn't take too long and we wouldn't have to worry about the struggle of driving on uneven terrain too much. And making it back to the ship, we picked up Princess and could easily just dig straight down now, as there was no threat of fall damage. And the engine for the Solo just required zinc, which was an easy material to provide as we solved our second engine. And when heading back to the ship, we ended up earning 100,000 total bytes. When we also finally found out what the packager does, I told you we were going to come back to that. Now we needed our tractor and trailers to bring around the generators to power up all the gateways. The generators can be placed onto the back of our ship as storage, but the tractors and trailers can't. But if you put the packager onto them, we could convert them back into tiny little boxes that we could pick up, which really helped, as I was just planning to spend so many resources on making new ones every single planet. After that, we were on to Calidor, which was a pretty flat planet, so getting around it was pretty simple. Yet it did have 6 gateways again, as every planet ended up taking us over an hour to do. Mainly because going to the core and then mining our way out just to get the resource required took an insanely long time in comparison. But all we needed now was explosive powder, which was easy again to make as we solved the Calidor engine. Next up was Novus, which was another moon, only having 2 again, but it was still hard to traverse while introducing another problem. That being, only 1 generator is not enough to power the gateway anymore. So we had to go back home again so that we could slap on another generator and start powering them back up. Novus just needed silicone, which was again easy as we solved our 4th planet. Then it was time for Visenia again, which was a pretty easy planet as we were now really getting the hang of driving, but we were again back to having 6 gateways from now on. And the core itself wanted graphene, which was a pretty tedious resource to make, but we were able to get it done and finish planet number 5. Next was Glacio, which was almost a completely flat planet, which meant it was easy enough to drive around on. Although it did force us to pull out a 3rd generator as it needed even more power. And the core wanted diamonds, which are again annoying, as to make a diamond, it's 2 graphene. But we weren't gonna let that stop us, of course. And the last, and by far worst planet to do, was Aatrox. The terrain was terrible to drive through. Super steep hills with loads of mountains and rocks that completely prevented your travels made this the longest planet by far. We ran into this weird biome that was just a mountain with a bunch of walls and no real path, So we had to build the longest bridge yet out of all the planets to be able to make it through without it taking even longer. Towards the end, the terrain got so rage-inducing that I just sat in silence trying not to lose it after flipping over for the 12th time. But we did eventually power every last gateway. Oh, finally! That was so tedious, man. Holy shit, we're done! I don't have to go to a single one of these again! And the core of our last planet only required some hydrogen. Oh, we're done with this. God, that took so long. This achievement sucked. We were finally done activating every gateway and every engine now. To you, a pretty quick sequence of events. To me, 7.5 hours of driving. Moving on, we can now get a few more achievements done thanks to a viewer. We got to host our first multiplayer world. Took us a few tries to figure out, but we could also travel in the same shuttle together. And then I could join their world to grab our last achievement to scan something in another player's world. So again, huge thank you to Mouse for the help. Back to single player, we could use a whole lot of explosive powder, and with it create enough fireworks to launch 10 in 10 seconds. Then growing a green thumb, we planted down dagger root, pop coral, spine lily, lash leaf, wheezeweed, bounce vine, and thistle whip seeds to grow our own hazardous garden. Next up, we needed to shred 50 items in our shredder, which is a good time to touch on another resource called Astronium. Honestly, only ever used it for this. It can be found at the center of the planet and can be used in the trade rocket to trade for 2 jump jets, meaning we could get a whole lot of resource easily that we could then scrap, giving us an easy way for the achievement after just a little bit of patience. After, we could start looking into rover attachments. More importantly, the drill. All we needed to do was drill into a harder rock. Easy to do with the mountain, but it also drilled through the generator powering it. Next was time to find a probe with our radar. It took a few minutes to get the hang of, but the amount of lights on it showed the distance away. The more lights, the closer you were. And when scanning, it would also point in the general direction before going on a short cooldown. After a little bit of time, we found the probe we were looking for, and it could insert the scanner into it for the achievement. And once again, it was time for space travel. We grabbed each geometric item that we collected and headed off into space. There was now a new place we could land on that was by the sun as we touched down on the unidentified satellite. On said satellite, there were a bunch of platforms with different symbols that matched all of the geometric pieces we had with us, as we could quickly finish the little matching game and interact with another odd stone that emerged from the middle. Let's go! Oh, wait. I'm still missing one. I got the Wanderer. Maybe the Wanderer is like a new achievement, I guess. So they haven't programmed the get every achievement. Even though we got the achievement for unlocking every achievement, we were still missing one more. We made a bunch more radars because you guessed it, there's one on every single planet. We did figure out that you could see where the probe is on your map while the scanner is active, which made it a lot easier. And this time we didn't have to drive around or anything, so the bumpy and uneven terrain wasn't much to worry about either. And each planet does only have one, so this wasn't that bad. Even the planets where we were as far as we could possibly be were pretty simple. Well, oh, thank God. Oh, nice. We're done. We finished. Damn, this game was actually really fun. And just like that, we waved to the Wanderer and 100%ed Astroneer. Thoughts wise, a super fun game, which was really fun to get to learn. Doing all the gateway stuff was absolutely terrible just because it was so tedious, but at least still semi-enjoyable. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching. If you would like more, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps. We also stream each one of these videos over on Twitch and have many other 100%s for you to check out. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.